Hello Tottenham fans, welcome back to the channel with me Kieran talking all things Tottenham. So today we're going to be discussing the 2-0 victory that we had last night over Dinamo Zagreb in the first leg of our last 16 Europa League tie. For those of you that are new to the channel, welcome. If you hit the subscribe button, feel free to hit this with a like just to show your support, and you can even turn on the bell notifications so you get notified when the next video goes live. For those of you that aren't new to the channel, welcome back, and hopefully you will enjoy today's video with another victory. Come on you Spurs. So let's start with the lineup. And in goal, Hugo Lloris is now the man between the sticks in this competition. Things have ramped up a bit, so I'm not surprised at the change there. In defence, we had Davies on the left, replacing Reguilon from the last game, and Aurier comes in on the right to replace Doherty. Now it creates good balance. As I said before, I'm quite happy with Davies one side as long as Aurier's the other, and I'm happy for Doherty to play when Reguilon plays. Then in centre-back, Dier finally makes his way back into the team with Alderweireld getting a rest and Sanchez retaining his place after his good recent run in form. Now into midfield, and we see Sissoko come back in. He replaces Højbjerg, and Tanguy comes back into the team after his rest. The next bank of three, the one that we feel is the most important and can really interchange. Sonny once again is out on the left. Dele comes into the middle replacing Lucas Moura. And we also have Erik Lamela finally getting a start. Bale drops to the bench. And then, of course, the main man, Harry Kane up top. Jose could have gone with Vinicius up top. I can see completely why he's gone with Harry Kane. You know, the guy's in good goal scoring form. He's had really good link-up play with the other attacking players. Let's just get this game done and dusted. So for that reason, you can't really grumble seeing Vinicius on the bench. I know usually I'm not a stat guy because I feel like stats aren't always important and a true reflection of the game. As a Spurs fan, we know this. You know, we have dominated stats in games and have ended up losing through individual and costly errors. But today I am just going to highlight a few stats because they link to some of the things that I want to talk about a bit later on. So, possession, we had 67.6%. I mean, we dominated the game for mass parts and they were really just defending. Our passing was 87.5%, which I actually think is a decent percentage considering the amount of chances that we were creating and the amount of attacking players we had on the pitch. You know, your defence is normally the area where your pass rate goes back up because they make a lot of sideways passes and whatnot. But what we've seen with Spurs, our defenders do like to take riskier passes as well. So you've got defenders with risky passes, your midfielders have to make risky passes, and your forwards aren't normally great at passing. We're just blessed to have a man like Harry Kane who has magical feet. When it comes to tackles, we actually won 90% of our tackles, which I feel is an impressive stat because in recent weeks we have been pressing a lot. And you do feel with pressing teams, you don't always have a high percentage of tackle win rate because you're going for more and more tackles than you usually would in a game. So this stat is one that I'm actually really happy to see. One that I'm interested in is we won 68% of our aerial duels. Now, considering we were firing a lot of long balls and crosses throughout this game and Zagreb weren't really creating too many chances, I'm actually surprised we won as much in the air as we did because you'd expect them to have won more because defenders have an advantage when balls are being played into the box because the ball's coming towards them, they're facing it. Attackers have to gamble sometimes. And we did win a lot of our headers in midfield. We know that when Dier's at the back, we're going to win a lot of our aerial duels. But as I said, Zagreb didn't create too much, so I'm surprised that one's as high as it is. Now, another random stat. And I feel this is more to do with Tanguy N'dombele. We won 20 fouls during this game. That was due to a couple of things. You know, Tanguy's a tricky customer. And Zagreb, you know, they really came for us. Defensively, they're a pretty solid team. If you look at their Europa League run before they played us, they'd only conceded one goal. And that actually came quite late in a game. And it was quite a big victory anyway for them. So I don't think they'll be too concerned. But, you know, the fact that's pretty impressive to put a run together and not concede any goals with some of the teams they've played as well. I also forgot to say when I was doing the lineup, when you look at the bench, we now have a full, strong bench. In the Europa League so far, we've actually seen youngsters on the bench. And Mourinho has expressed the fact that he uses the youngsters quite a lot in training. And they've been on the bench for a lot of the games. But this time round, there is not a single youngster present. This was full blood. I want to go out. I want to win. I don't want to concede any goals. We go into that second leg with a nice advantage. No away goals conceded. And we do the damage. So I'm going to talk about the game. Sort of like the key highlights of the game. I'm not going to talk about as many of the chances that we created like I normally do, because in this game we did create quite a few and there'd be quite a lot to talk about, and I don't want to go on forever and ever and ever in this video. So in the beginning of the game, we actually see Zagreb come out with some intent. They want to stamp their authority on the game and let us know that we're in this tie as well. And they actually started really well, and it took us about 10-12 minutes to start really putting our stamp on the game, and that's kind of when the game turned. You know, we started having a lot more possession, a lot more intent about our play. I think it just took us a while as well to figure out where we can go with this Zagreb team and feel our way into the game. You will have noticed as well, with Tanguy and Sissoko being our two holding midfielders, if you will, you would have expected that Sissoko was kind of expected to come in and take over from Højbjerg. But it kind of wasn't that. It was a little bit of a different role. We saw Tanguy was a lot deeper of the two when we were in possession. And the reason for that is Tanguy is very good on the ball. He gives us an element of flow. He gets us further up the pitch quicker. When he plays with Højbjerg, you do find that Højbjerg tends to take the deeper role sometimes. Tanguy does come and pick the ball up a lot, but you know, I feel with Sissoko, because his ability on the ball is nowhere near Tanguy's, it makes sense to have him further forward. And then when we lose the ball, when we're in defending positions, you see Sissoko come and do what he does so well. He supports and becomes an extra defender, whether that be helping out Aurier on the right or just sitting in that pocket in front of the defence to clear things up and nick the ball back. But, you know, the game goes on and we're really getting into this, putting some good moves together. And we didn't have to wait too long. 25 minutes in, we have a goal. It's that man, Harry Kane, once again. Right place, right time. So Harry Kane actually starts the move from deep. He plays a nice ball forward, which is headed by their defender. But what Kane does after he plays this ball, he doesn't just kind of admire it. He then starts to make his way up the pitch centrally and he's running through. Now, Lamela does really well to win possession for us. It's that good pressing that we've seen from him constantly that Lucas Moura has put into his game as well. You know, our attacking midfielders are doing this really well. But anyway, Lamela picks up the ball and he drives towards the defence, starts cutting across the 18-yard box and hits a lovely shot with the outside of his boot. Unfortunately, it comes off the post. But there it is. It falls straight to Harry Kane. It's not by luck. It's the fact is he's come into the box. He's taking up a good position, and a good striker always follows the shot, whether it be your own or somebody else's. And he puts the ball in the back of the net. Nice, comfortable finish. A lot of us would have felt really sorry for Erik Lamela. You know, the guy's done all the hard work. He's put the skill into it. The finish was looking nice. It just, on another day, that goes in. Unfortunately, it's off the post. But nonetheless, we are 1-0 to the good. It was a nice bit of play. Well done, Harry Kane. From this moment, we really start to try and stamp our authority in the game. You know, it's just wave after wave of attack. You know, every now and again, Zagreb do manage to break through. And as I said in the pre-game video, you do find with these foreign teams, they quite often have strong defences and they have pretty quick counter-attacks. That's the way they set up. So yeah, Dinamo do really remain a threat on the counter, so our defenders had to be aware. Sissoko and N'dombele, when we lose the ball, really have to make sure they get back. But you know, with someone like Lamela on the pitch, we know that he's going to work back. Son doesn't dare not work back anymore after the argument that we saw him and Lloris have last season. And Harry Kane as well has a real habit of getting back. You know, you defend from the front. The striker is the first line of defence. We see Dier ends up with a cut on the bridge of his nose. Nothing serious. He goes off, gets the Vaseline on, new shirt. Nothing serious there. And that's half time. We head in 1-0, knowing that we've put on the pressure. We're doing our work. The only thing we're lacking is that second goal. Second half starts, and we don't have to wait too long before, we think we've got a penalty. But we don't. Jose and his team are kicking off at the sides, asking why it wasn't looked at. I do actually think it was looked at. When you see a little bit further down the line, the play continues and the ball goes out for a throw-in, and you just see the referee do this with his hand. Although he doesn't do this, which is what the referees normally do to show they're in communication, he puts his hand out. I genuinely think they were having a discussion, and that was cleared up, that they felt it was no foul. It was one of them where we all thought it was a penalty, and the majority of people will say it's a penalty. If that occurs outside of the box, it's 100% given a foul. Now, I think, and I'm not defending their decision, but the only reason I can think that they decided not to give the penalty was the fact that N'dombele does his little bit of skill, and he's almost completely front on with the defender. So when he plays this ball, he's still got a long way to go to get round the defender, just from the way the defender was jockeying him, sort of like the defender's legs were sort of in between Tanguy's legs. So he's still got to go all the way round. So I think they've looked at it and thought, although the defender's made a clear movement into him and hasn't really played for the ball, I feel like Tanguy doesn't make enough of an effort to go around him. It's almost like Tanguy's kind of gone on a diagonal, and it's a coming together, but it's a foul, if you know what I mean. So I think that's the reason they haven't given it, because Tanguy didn't make enough of an effort to get round the defender. He's done all the work with the ball, but there's also that element of, was he playing for a penalty? But in my eyes, it should have been a penalty, but that's the only reason I can think they didn't give it. 64 minutes in, we actually make a triple change, which was really interesting to see. I think that's more because in the second half, Zagreb came out and they really, really dug deep to defend the 1-0. I think they know that if we score more goals, the game's kind of done, because they know that when we go to their place, we're still going to attack, and we've been defending well recently. So they put all their men behind the ball, had a low block, and we're finding it really hard to get through, like we did against Crystal Palace for the first half. That low block, it's really hard to find space to get through, to make these passes. Where the movement is, the players follow. When one defender moves forward to press onto a player, a pass is made, that defender then drops, the next player comes forward to press the player receiving the ball. From that perspective, they were really hard to break down, and they did fantastically. So I think Mourinho was quite sensible to make these changes. It just invites a little bit more energy into the game, maybe some new ideas, because these players individually play different, and it just gives the Zagreb defenders something different to think about. So for these subs, we saw Lamela, Son and Dier all come off the pitch, and Bergwijn, Bale and Moura were introduced. Now, they're not three players that you're going to be happy to see come onto the pitch. They've all got decent pace. They're all tricky customers when they're on the ball. Two of them, at least, we know are dangerous in front of goal. And Lucas Moura recently is just a pest for anyone, You can't get him off you. And those three players have an instant impact. When I was listening to the commentary of the game, you see him giving all the praise to Bale and Bergwijn for that little link-up. And the person they forget to mention is Lucas Moura. So all three have just been introduced. And the first thing Lucas does is wins the ball from pressing. The ball goes out to Bale, who crosses this sublime ball with the outside of his foot. And I am a massive fan of the outside of the foot. They just look incredible. So the ball's floated across to Bergwijn, who gets a shot off. And unfortunately, it's just very tame. I mean, I feel like if he'd have put a bit of power into it, and the guy does have the ability, we've seen him hit some shots, and with very little backlift, he generates a lot of power. I just wish he'd put his foot through it a little bit more and maybe caught the keeper off guard, but he kind of cushions the volley across goal and just focused too much on accuracy rather than anything else, and it was a nothing shot. But it was a good bit of play, and all three of them straight out of the blocks involved. 70 minutes in, we take a 2-0 lead, and again, Harry Kane is the goal scorer. So what happens here? N'dombele plays a delightful diagonal ball over to Aurier, who has made a really good run. He signals for the ball beforehand. You see him pointing where he wants it, and N'dombele just puts it over beautifully. Aurier volleys it across the box first time. It wasn't a great cross, to be honest, and the former Cardiff City player, Fiafile, unfortunately just gets it wrong. It is a defensive mistake. He misjudges it, scuffs it, falls right to Harry Kane, which is the last player in the world in the box you want that ball to fall to. But it's not a guaranteed goal from there because Fiafile was still in front of Harry Kane. He's still got the work to do. He makes a little movement, plants Fiafile. Harry Kane pauses, takes it outside and puts it through his legs into the back of the net. And there we are, 2-0 to the good. 72 minutes in, we see a substitution. Tanguy N'dombele comes off and Højbjerg comes in. Now that's for two reasons. One, we want to make sure we don't concede a goal. And when Højbjerg's on the pitch, that definitely gives us an advantage. And number two, Tanguy's done his job for the night. He's been very good in possession. He's drawn a lot of fouls. He has been kicked from start to finish. So the guy deserves to sit down and just count his bruises. On 76 minutes, I want to give a lot of credit here for Ben Davies. Zagreb play a ball over the top, and had Davies not be there, their striker was definitely going to run onto it. He would have had a shot. Whether it had gone in or not, who knows? But the fact is, Davies, he gave the runner a little bit of space. He's read it perfectly. He's had to sort of do like a mini jump and clears it out. It goes for a corner. But the fact is, they haven't had a lot to do. They've kept concentration, and Davies has been intelligent, and that there saves us possibly from that away goal that we didn't want to see. And it's moments like that that are just as important as goals themselves. But in this case, it's almost more important than a goal because of the away goal rule. And then straight from that corner, they have another chance, but there he is, Harry Kane at the other end of the pitch, making a block. Now that was another one. It was probably on target, and from corners you never know whether the keepers are going to get there because you don't know what they can clearly see with the players all in front of them. Sometimes, a striker will get onto the ball and then the defender of our team is actually blocking Lloris's view of where the ball's going to land, or he can't see the header. He knows there's going to be a connection. But there he is again, Harry Kane, who does make a lot of blocks, a lot of clearances from set pieces at the other end. And that was actually spoken about by Jose Mourinho, so we'll cover that a little bit later. 84 minutes in, Harry Kane is taken off, and Carlos Vinicius is the guy that replaces him. I'm actually a little bit disappointed that we didn't see Kane go off earlier. Like, the fact is, we're 2-0 up. We know the game's not finished yet. We've got the North London derby coming up. We have attacking players on the pitch that can score goals. Bale's chipped in recently. So why leave him on? And the fact is, he's only been taken off because he received a knock to the knee. Now, it didn't look too serious. They iced him up after he's come off the pitch, and he didn't have it on for too long. He's taken it off before the end of the game. So it's probably not too serious. But why take the risk? You've brought on Højbjerg to try and help us not concede a goal. Vinicius needs minutes. You've said you've been impressed with him, so just put him on earlier. When Kane scores that second goal, for me, that's just the perfect time to take him off. And then 89 minutes, something happens that in one sense is good for us, but it's something that I never like to see. Zagreb's captain, Ademi, he ends up going off with what looks like it could be an injury that may keep him out for next week's game. So the fact is, he's their captain, he's their defensive, he's their Højbjerg. That's the way I'll put it. He is their Højbjerg. He does all that dirty work. And they've lost him to an injury, which would have deflated him for the last few minutes of the game. So hopefully he has a speedy recovery, because the Croatian table is looking very tight at the moment and they are going to need him in the coming games. There's not many points in it. He is their leader. He's a very good captain. He's a very good player for them. And hopefully we don't see him against us in the next game. But on the flip side, I hope he recovers and there's nothing too serious. And then right at the end of the game, we have another chance to score. Vinicius gets his chance, and unfortunately, he just takes it a little early. He's coming into the box and you expect him to bend it into the far corner around the goalkeeper, and instead he doesn't. It's a tame shot. But this is what happens when you don't bring the players on early enough. You bring him on 84 minutes, And then I think there was 4 minutes added time. He's on the pitch for 10 minutes total. You can't expect him to come into a game where attacking wise we've been very fluid and very quick, and then him to be up to full pace. People need shots. Harry Kane doesn't come on the pitch and always score with his first shot. Please don't be critical of the guy. He does well when he's on the pitch. He does make runs. He's got good hold-up play. He's very strong. Just give the guy some more minutes and give Kane more of a rest, please. That's all I'm asking. And that was the game. So at a 2-0 win, we travel to their place with a nice advantage, and hopefully we just get a goal. One goal kills that tie. Now I'm going to move on to the interviews after the game before I talk about what I was really impressed with today and the players individually. Jose was, of course, asked about Harry Kane. That was the first thing that came up. He said he believes Harry Kane's going to be okay, and it would probably take something a lot more serious to stop him from playing against Arsenal. And that goes for every single player. They're all going to want to play in that derby. Of course, he was asked about the penalty, and in his eyes, it was a penalty. He said a penalty is a penalty. And at the time in the game, I think he was asking the question of why it hadn't been looked at. I think by this point he's accepted it had been looked at, because he said, the referee didn't believe it was a penalty, VAR didn't believe it was a penalty, so we have to accept that. He believes that we could have had more goals, and he said that with so many fresh players, he wanted to see a bit more intensity, but he feels like we played well. He spoke about the fact that he believes Zagreb defended very well, and they definitely did in the second half. They really come out and tried to stop us from getting through. He said they held a very good low block. He also said the game is still open because we didn't actually kill it off with that third goal today. I think by the sounds of it, he's happy and confident that we can get the job done over there, because he said it helps that at the moment we are in a positive run. We're now on a 5-game winning streak. Hopefully we get the win against Arsenal, which will keep us in a positive mood. And I do think if we beat Arsenal, we will have so much confidence. That'll be 6 wins on the bounce and a second North London derby win this season. So I feel like we would definitely be too much for him after that. The confidence will be sky high. One of the journalists also mentioned that the Zagreb manager had his interview and said that Harry Kane is a master of football. And Jose agreed, he is. He said he's very intelligent. One of the things he spoke about at the side of the pitch after the game was the fact of Harry Kane being in the box to make that block, clearance, whatever you will. They like Harry Kane there. They said that he's got very good timing. Obviously, they review all the stats, and there is a reason why you'll see Kane in there. But Harry Kane, he's got good timing. He is good in the air. He's got a quick mind. He reads the game well, which is why, that ball comes down initially, he just puts his foot out, and that causes the block. That's the reason he's in there. He's a very good player. He's an exceptional passer of the ball. He scores goals. He contributes a lot for us. Hugo was interviewed at the side of the pitch as well, and it was a fairly straightforward interview. He said that we played well. He spoke about Harry Kane in front of him, saying that, he comes and helps in defence as well, and reiterated what Jose said, that the game is not done. Lamela was also interviewed after the game, not by BT Sports, but by Tottenham themselves, on the YouTube channel of Tottenham. You can go on there and you can see all the interviews. They normally interview, the manager and 2 players, or if not, a manager, a coach and a player. But he was saying that the clean sheet that we got, that's very important. That's what we were working for. He also said that he felt that we played well, but could have played better. And that's a nice thing to hear from a player, knowing that, you could have exerted yourself a bit more and put a bit more into the game. There's always room for improvement. He said that we dominated the first half. He said the second half was a lot harder because they came out and they pressed higher. So that puts pressure on everyone. It was harder to sort of make our way through them. He said that, we were solid. But again, the third person to reiterate, the game is not over. The tie is not done. He was very grateful because the person interviewing him said that, he's playing well, asking him how he's feeling. So he thanked him for that. He's a very humble guy. He says that every time he's on the pitch, he tries to do his best. But the most important thing is that the team played well and that we won the game. So 2-0 is a good result, and the game is not done, which we know it's not. It's going to be different on their patch. They're going to feel more comfortable there. That's where they've played all season. It was their first time at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And it's an intimidating place to come. No fans in a stadium that big. I think the only thing that would have made it more intimidating for them had there been fans in the stadium. So Luckily for them, there wasn't, because I feel if we had the fans in the stadium, and a stadium that big, it really would have G'd us on to get more goals. But then on the flip side, they would have had their fans as well, applauding them and cheering when they were putting on this great defensive display. So now that's out the way, I actually want to talk about, what I took from the game and the things that I wrote down. So as I was watching the game, I tend to write little notes down about players and stuff like that. But for me, the thing that I actually wrote down in the first half, because I was enjoying the game, I didn't write too much. I wrote passing, pressing. So apart from writing down about the goals, they were the two things I took away from the first half. And as a team, I felt like our pressing was very good. We're getting back to what we used to see under Pochettino when he first was in charge of Tottenham. And at times, there were 3 players. There was a moment in the second half, and I think it was from a corner. They'd won the ball and they started to break down the right-hand side. Dier flew over there. Aurier, who obviously is meant to be on the right, comes steaming across all the way to the left to help cover. And there was one other. All 3 of them come flying over to make sure that this break that they're on doesn't continue. And that was a great moment to see. Dier did give away a foul, but I don't care because it shows hunger and commitment to the cause, and we were desperate to keep hold of that clean sheet. Now, in terms of our passing, at times it was just majestic to see. Obviously, Harry Kane has become an absolute wizard of a passer. N'dombele plays lovely, intelligent passes. But other players were getting involved, like Aurier hit a few nice passes. Ben Davies was getting up the pitch and putting a few crosses in. Dele made some nice passes. Lamela, his passing has been second to none this season when he's been on the pitch. So as a fan, to watch this passing, it's just been a really lovely thing to see, I feel. And I'm very happy. If we just run through the players that were on the pitch, Lloris was more vocal today. So when you're watching the game and they've put the sort of like crowd sounds in, you don't always hear what's going on. But there were a lot of times when you could hear Lloris urging players to get out when they're sort of 5 to 10 yards away from our box. And there was a moment when he was like, get out, get out, get out. And you see Sanchez had run across. And all that did, just by being a bit further forward, it closed off an angle for that player, and it gives them something else to think about, and they don't hit the cleanest shot, which is what happened in the end, and it was a comfortable save for Lloris. So he was more vocal, which is really positive. Didn't have too much to do in terms of saves, which we like. That means the rest of the team were doing their job. Aurier had a lot of the ball in the first half on that right-hand side. His crossing's not the best, but every now and again he'll hit an absolute peach of a cross. But as we've come to expect from Aurier, he does like to get high up the pitch. He defended fairly well, didn't have loads to do. Davies, on the other hand, I was very impressed with. I think back in the day when we saw him and Danny Rose battling it out for that first team spot was when we saw the best of Davies. I just feel like he's playing better, and not just in a defensive sense, but the fact he's getting forward. He was up the pitch quite a lot today, and he has been in the last few games that he's played. He's putting in good crosses, working hard for the team. So I was impressed with him, and obviously he did make that interception that led to the corner in the second half, which I said was really important for us in my analysis. Sanchez again got a start, and I do feel like he's starting to settle more, like he's not making those big mistakes. And as I said, like in previous videos, he's good with his rushing out and blocking. His tackling's fairly good. He's a strong physical guy at times. The only thing that lets him down is his passing, which is great when he's next to Toby, because Toby's passing's a little bit better. With someone like Tanguy dropping deeper, he doesn't need to make poor passes, because Tanguy will just come, collect the ball from a 5-10 yard pass, and play moves on. But again, I was impressed with Sanchez. Dier next to him didn't have loads and loads to do. He didn't really make any glaring errors. Once again, good in the air, but we expect that from him. So from the defence, a clean sheet, which is a nice compliment. They worked fairly well together, no problems there. So talking of Dele, he didn't have the most influential game. Obviously, we saw him have that great game in the Europa League where he scores the overhead kick. But Dele, what he did today for me was he was a team player. He was making those runs into the box like we used to see him make for those long balls from Kane when he sees him. But the good thing that Dele did today was he was winning a lot of second balls. So he was keeping us in possession, he was making some cute passes, and his movement did allow space for other people. So from Dele, it was a very unselfish display, I thought. Moussa Sissoko. Now this guy, when he's on the pitch, he causes like a divide in my own mind, because defensively, he does what he's asked of. If Aurier gets forward, he will come across, he will cover. He reads that side of the game well. He's quite intelligent of knowing where he should be in defensive areas. He's tackling, I mean, it's not really neat tackling, but he has this habit of sort of like poking a toe through and knocks the ball away from the attacking players. He does that well. He times them very well. So for me, it's great when he's on the pitch in that sense. But when we have the ball, this is the frustration. He's not great at picking out a first-time pass. He delays on the ball, which means anyone that's making a run, the defenders then have a chance to sort of catch up with them, and it slows play down. And this really is his biggest weakness and the main frustration I have with him. I like it when he's sitting further back and doesn't try and get involved too much. He's great when he goes on a bursting run because he's really strong, but he doesn't go on enough of them. But I don't want him to have that creative side of the game that he hasn't really got. He's not a pass master. He's never going to be now at this stage of his career. Just do the simple things. Do what Harry Winks has a habit of doing when he's not feeling so confident. Plays the ball sideways. Give it to someone else and let them do the work. You've done your job defensively, and that's all we ask of you. Sonny had a good game in a different sense to some of the others. Sonny was great with his runs. Every time Kane gets on the ball from deep, Son just runs. He knows that Harry's going to have a quick look up to see where he is. Harry knows roughly the directions that Son's going to be running in and the space he will attack. So he just makes those runs. Sometimes he makes really unselfish runs to create the space for the other players. But he just puts pressure on the defence all day. And he's going to knacker his fullback out that he's up against because he's up and down, in and out. He's very, very hard to mark, very tricky, very good on the ball. He had a decent game. Tanguy N'dombele. Now this guy, he had a great game. And Zagreb really, really struggled with him. And I feel the reason behind that is he's very tricky on the ball. He has a lot of sort of like, he delays and then he moves. There's like a little change of pace, a burst. He does step overs. Sometimes he'll pass the ball. He chops and changes direction, a bit like Moussa Dembele did when we had him. And because of that, it draws a lot of fouls. It gives us a lot of free kicks. It disrupts the speed of the game. And where Zagreb aren't a Premier League team, obviously in the Premier League, the game is played at such a high intensity. They're not used to that in some of these other leagues. And I feel like that's why he drew so many fouls, because they're just not quite sharp enough to keep up with him. He draws enough fouls in the Premier League, but it's just so important for us. He links up play. He's got great feet. His passing is getting better and better every game. Like that ball I said he flew out for Aurier just before Kane's second goal. The guy deserves a lot of praise for the work he put in, the fact that he decided to stay at the club. Very, very, very impressed with him. Harry Kane, great defensively, great in attack, majestic passing, ability to score, create space for others, works hard, very vocal. Is there anything else we need to say about this guy? He's incredible. Job done. I don't need to say any more. When Lucas came on, he offered us pressing. You know, he's a very fit guy, has a lot of energy, continued that pressing display. Gareth Bale, obviously, when he came on, he had that arrogance about him that we used to see. He's linking up plays, playing really good passes. He's running at defenders. He is doing the defensive work when he needs to, which is great to see. Stevie Bergwijn, the guy just needs a goal. That's all he needs, and I think we've got him back. You know, he's quite tricky on the ball. He's got good pace. He does link up with people. He makes runs across people to release other people. He's a good player, and he just needs that goal for his confidence. Hugo, when he came on, solid. He made an important foul. Zagreb were on the break, and again I said like Davies when he did that bit, put it out for a corner. Højbjerg did what he needed to do. He pulled the player back in a dangerous moment. It may have come to nothing, but you don't take the risk. He has picked up a booking, so he won't be available for the second leg, which is the only bad part of that. But he did his job, and that's what he does. He reads the game. He knows when he's got to make the challenges. Took him out, got the yellow card. Thank you very much, Pierre. And then Vinicius comes on, doesn't have very long to impress, has some good movement, holds up the ball, links up play, gets a shot off. Didn't have a lot of time, but he did what he needed to do. So that's my analysis of the game. That's my thought on the individual players. We've spoken about the interviews. It is another win for Spurs. 5 on the bounce. There will be a video coming out tomorrow on the North London derby. So for those of you, if you're not watching it right away, that will be Saturday, the video. I'm just waiting for the press conferences to come out to talk about team news and see what's going on, and that video will be with you. So thank you very much. If you've got any comments or thoughts on anything I've said, anything you've said, any videos you want me to make in the future, please comment below. Hey Spurs fans, thanks for joining me for that video today. If you did enjoy it, please support the video with a like. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't, because that allows you to access my channel a lot easier. And turn on the bell notifications if you want, and you'll get notified when the next video goes live. You won't even have to search for it, because it will come up on your phone saying, Kieran has posted a new video. Click it, watch it. Thank you for your support, and as always, come on you Spurs.